Yes, absolutely.
Dating a relationship coach. Like, how did we get there?
Mm-hmm. So I guess you can say it started many years ago. I've always had strong opinions in regards to dating and relationships and the way that men and women interact with each other. So I think some of those ideas have always been polarizing. I've gotten into debates in college, which is like 13 years ago, about dating and relationships. So that would probably be the initial seed. And then from there, I was involved in a relationship with a gentleman for 4 years. And he was either unable or unwilling to commit. I don't know which one, and I'm not here to judge. Either way it goes, I wasn't getting what I wanted, right? Which was a solid commitment. And at that time, I was looking for engagement, looking for let's buy a house together, something that showed that we both have some skin in the game and we both have intentions of moving forward in our lives together. Again, he was either unable or unwilling to give me what I was looking for. And so I made the decision after 4 years to cut my losses, right? To learn from that experience and move on. Now, I did go to school for counseling. I have a master's degree in counseling. I have a master's degree extension in mental health counseling. And so I developed like my own process on how to get over this breakup. So the first thing that I did was I self-reflected. Okay, like what did I do wrong? And that's always been my approach in everything. I'm not the person who's going to throw blame and blame everybody for everything that goes wrong in my life. I played some role. Sometimes it's significant, sometimes it's insignificant, but everything that's ever happened to me, I played some role. And so the first thing I need to do is, well, what did I do wrong in this relationship that led me to 4 years later and having absolutely nothing to show for it? So that was step one. Step two, after I self-reflected and I had my laundry list of what I did wrong, now we need to talk about what am I going to do differently moving forward. So one of the things was I was very argumentative, right? I'm a naturally argumentative person. I'm naturally very opinionated. That's who I am. And so even though that is who I am, that doesn't mean that that is what I need to be forever. And it doesn't mean that I can't be mindful of when and where to use it. So if I'm ever in a situation where I'm in court, no one's going to beat me, right? I'm going to have the evidence. I'm going to have the logic. I'm going to have the reason. I'm going to have the words. I can articulate myself, but I don't live in a courthouse. And so if I'm in a romantic relationship with someone, I don't need to be my own lawyer. I need to be mindful of when and where to use the skill. It's a valuable skill to have, but it doesn't mean that I need to use it actively in my romantic life. So that was one of the many examples of what I did wrong, right? And now the second part is the self-reflection. I'm stepping up. How am I going to change these behaviors that are unattractive? And this is not an effort to get back with my ex. I'm done. He's not willing or able. That's it. This is an effort to improve me so that I can attract more qualified and more quality mates moving forward so I can get what I want, which is the nuclear family, marriage, a house, financial security, building a foundation for my family moving forward, making sure that my children are good. They don't have to struggle, right? Like all those things. So now self-reflection, step up, working on becoming a better version of me, and then sitting back, like allowing love back in, dropping the walls of defense so that I can see when there are opportunities for me to date and not say, men are terrible. They're not going to treat me well. I'm just going to I'm just going to do me, as they say. I'm, having blinders on. Like, you do actually have to date. You have to be pleasant. You have to be welcoming. Like, that's all of the sitting back. That's the process I created for myself in that. And then, so we fast forward about 2 years later, I met a guy. He's amazing. Became engaged in less than a year and a half, got married. Then COVID hit. And I was working as a school counselor for the city. And the city, for the first time ever, because especially in the United States, it's all about get yourself a city job, get yourself a state job. You're going to have job security. You're going to have a pension. You're going to have insurance, right? Like, those are all the big things that you want. And for the first time in my life, I've heard someone say, and this person was the mayor, who said, we're going to be cutting back on city jobs. So I'm like, man, I don't have the level of security that we've been taught in this country for decades, right? Even entrepreneurship, which is valuable, is still like dangerous and risky. Are you sure? Like, you might want to get you a really good city and state job and then approach starting a business, right? And then running both until you know that, so the city and state job is it. Like now we don't have the level, I think he said at the time, like they were looking to get rid of like 300,000 people. Like, I need to start a business that is going to allow me to have additional income because this job is not as secure as I think that it is. So if I'm going to start a business, what can I start the business around that I'm already naturally good at? Like, okay, I'm a natural speaker. One thing I'm good at is talking. People enjoy listening to me. They relatively agree. Even if they disagree, they respectfully disagree. They can see my logic. They can see my reason, even if they don't agree with the premise. So talking is what I'm good at. This is my thing. What can I do with talking in a business? So the first thing I thought about was like motivational speaking, but I'm like, I have to build like an audience first. Like, I'm not really sure. So then as I did my research, I said coaching. Coaching is something that I can enter into as a low bar of entry certification class. And you don't even have to be certified actually, but that was important to me. And then I can start with just one client and then grow that. And then maybe eventually I can get into motivational speaking and speaking in large audiences, but coaching would allow me to get in without a lot of effort. So that's my story.
Wow. So a couple of things. So you found yourself after a breakup. So you sat down and you went, okay, these are the things that happened, and things I could improve. And you took that into your next relationship.
Yes.
What are some of the things, like in some of your content, you talked about femininity and how everyone defines that for themselves. And I'm interested, how do you define femininity and how did that change? How did your breakup change that?
Yes, so that's an excellent question. I'll be 100% honest with you. I don't have an answer. I am still figuring out what it means to be feminine for me. I can give you some examples. Like I think smelling good all the time is something that's feminine to me. I think being concerned about your appearance. So if that's hair and nails and the way that you dress and dressing in a way that complements your physique, I think that's feminine. I think speaking in a way that isn't aggressive. And again, some people might define that differently, right? Like some people might say, even my tone is still, I'm from New York. So I'm not necessarily the most soft-spoken person, but speaking more strategically to get to your results, right? Not being as aggressive per se. So those are some of the ways that I define femininity, but I'm still working it out. That there are so many elements. And there's some people who would say, no, that's not femininity. And femininity instead is, being motherly might be feminine to them, right? So there's so many different ways, but that's some of the things that I'm working on, some of the things that I already have down pat, right? That I know is important to me. And I feel like it highlights the way that I am feminine. But it is true. Different people define femininity in different ways. Some women will say, oh, absolutely, I don't have to dress any particular, I don't have to wear heels to be feminine, but that's how I would define it, So, yeah.
So what are some of the problems that the people face, the people that come to you right now, and thank God to social media, you were able to reach thousands of people. Now you have over a couple of thousands of people and they listen to you, they get your message. Now, you're already a speaker in some way or form, right? So what is the common problem that they have when they come to you?
Yes. So even though I work with singles, both men and women, I seem to attract exclusively women. And so my experience is based on women. So that's everything I'm going to answer moving forward. So the problems that women are facing on the dating scene is that, one, they're finding that at least the men that they're attracting or that they're meeting are not interested in commitment, which was the same problem that I had, right? So they're looking to see where things go and go with the flow. However, I'm in my 30s. My clients are in their 30s and 40s. If you want to have children or more children, and if you want to have children in wedlock, we literally don't have the time to go with the flow. So men are at an advantage where they can literally have children whenever they want. They could be 79 and laying in their deathbed and still have a child. Women aren't afforded that opportunity. And so as a result, we are pressed for time and we're not in a position to see where things go. We're not in a position to go with the flow. We're not in a position to build a year's worth of friendship to then see if we don't have time for that, right? And so when we're coming across these gentlemen who say they want to go with the flow, automatically I recommend my clients, those are not men that you will consider, period. You're not going to even engage in a conversation because they are not where you are. We need to find gentlemen who are where we are, who want commitment, who are looking for marriage, if that's what the woman wants, or at least my clients want lifelong partnership. Most of my clients want children. Like those are things that we need to inquire about immediately to make sure that these gentlemen at least want what we want. Now, it doesn't mean they want it with us. Doesn't mean we want it with them, but at a bare minimum, we're not even going to engage in conversation unless we know that these gentlemen want the same things. So that's really the number one issue, finding gentlemen who want the same things that we want, which is usually marriage or lifelong partnership and children.
So what would be one advice you would give when it comes to attracting the ones you want, the ones who want to commit today?
Yes, absolutely. So what I advise my clients, number one, is you have to be what you want, right? So how are you, or it's going to be very difficult for you, not impossible. It'll be very difficult for you to attract a gentleman that you don't have, that you want, that has particular qualities and you don't have them. So you want a guy who's very fit, let's say, right? Six pack and all triceps and biceps, and you don't go to the gym. You don't go to the juice bar. Your favorite meal is at the drive-thru at McDonald's. Where are you going to find him? Now, is it possible you can see him on the train? Sure, right? Like maybe, but more likely than not, if there's something about a gentleman that you want, for example, a fit guy, he's probably going to be in the places where fit guys are, which is where you need to position yourself to be, right? You want to find a gentleman who's a professional. However, you don't work in a professional setting. Again, you could find him at the line in Starbucks, but more likely than not, he's going to be at social settings. He's going to be at networking events, right? And that's where you want to position yourself in order to find this person. You say that you want a man who is a believer, believes in God, God-fearing man. You don't go to church. You're not friends with people who are involved in the church. You don't do any kind of prayers. Again, you could find him in the line in Starbucks, but more likely than not, you both are going to be in a better position to communicate and to build and to get to know each other if you're in the environments that these people are in. So I tell anyone, if there's a particular type of person that you're looking for, and you should have a list of the qualities, you need to become that person. Because one, you're going to put yourself in a position to actually meet them if you're in those circles. And then two, once you meet them, you want them to like you too. There's a lot of conversation about not finding quality men. A lot of women can't find quality men, can't find the men who want what I want. But my question to you is, if you were to find that man, would he want you? Do you exude the characteristics that you want? Do you want a man who's patient and understanding and blah, blah, blah? Are you patient? Are you understanding? You need to be those things, because you might think that you can't find a quality man, but in actuality, quality men have been walking right past you all this time, and they're not interested in you because you're not showing the qualifications that he's looking for in a woman.
Wow. I'm sure there are younger people also, who are also part of your audience. And what would you say to them not to get to that point where they're going, I need to, within a year, we need to figure out, we need to be friends, lovers, skip the whole thing, find out, do you want kids? Do you want, like, what would be your message to those younger ones?
So again, like I said, for me and my clients, we're 30 plus. I want to say probably the youngest person who's reached out to me was 21 just the other day. And I told her that I am not the page for you. Like this is not where you need to be right now. You should be exploring and having fun in a safe way. You should be dating. You should be figuring out what you like and what you don't like. This is the time for the exploration, because she's 21 now, but she's going to be 29 at the blink of an eye. And then now is going to be the time where I need to get serious. I need to date with focus. I need to date with intention. I'm not wasting my time dating people who aren't what I'm looking for. I need to work on me, right? But at 21, to expect that level of reflection where, these are the characteristics that are problematic, I think is a lot to ask. Like the cerebral text, the front of the brain is not even developed until age 27, right? So we're not in a position to even be that reflective right now. Anything before 25, chill, date, have fun, get to know people, learn your likes, learn your dislikes, begin to learn more about yourself as an individual. And then we can talk about dating in any serious manner. Honestly, like I wouldn't even really talk about that until about 27. At 27, this is the time where we're like, as for women, because remember, it's a short period of time if you want to have children, right? After 35, a woman who's pregnant, that's considered a geriatric pregnancy. She's considered old, right? To science. So 27 is a time where I need to focus with intention. I need to date with intention. Anyone that I'm dating moving forward, if it's not for the purpose of a long-term, a lifetime, or a marriage commitment, then this is not the right person for me.
So you wouldn't advise marriage for women before 27?
If they find the right one, absolutely. I would not worry about and look for a coach and look for insight online. I wouldn't guidance and I'm overwhelmed and I need help. I would not seek help before that time. But absolutely, if you find the love of your life at 25 and you know that this person's the right one for you, then go full steam ahead. But I would not search and seek out help from any professional for dating and relationship advice. Now, if you've been through a traumatic life, right, like a traumatic childhood and you've experienced loss and abuse, then you should seek therapy to work on you at any age. So if you're 19 and you realize I've been through a lot in my life, I need to process my emotions, then yes, go to therapy. But in regards to looking for a professional to help you in your dating and relationship life, I wouldn't do that before age 29. At 29, it's like, okay, I'm about to be 30. I'm limited on time. Maybe I need to seek out some professional help in dating and relationships.
100% you would advise seeking professional help?
At 29, at least in America, right? So I know that this video is going to make it all around the world and back again. And so culturally, things are different. In some cultures, if you're not 24 and married, you're old. So in the US, I would say, for me, I would not be prepared to financially invest in a coach until about 29. 29. So I would say take dating seriously at 27. You're doing it for 2 years and you're not getting any kind of results you're looking for around 29 because it's a financial investment. We're not free and we're not cheap. And so if you're going to be investing some coins, it should be not too late. You shouldn't be like 49 talking about, I need help. But at the same time, you shouldn't be scraping together your last pennies at 24 looking for guidance on dating. You're still young. You have time.
Okay. So there's an opinion going around about femininity and how that's missing today. What's your opinion on that?
So I actually just posted a video yesterday that has become a bit controversial, both on Instagram, more on TikTok, in regards to where I think the blame should be placed. So my opinion is that many of the modern women of today have lost their femininity out of survival mode. So I need to survive in this world. I am not in a position to worry about my hair and my nails. I'm not in a position to worry about if my tone is appropriate. I'm not in a position to worry about, being softer. I need to be aggressive in this modern age because I don't have a male partner who's going to help to balance the two. I think that women have been put in a position to become more masculine because of a lack of masculinity around them. I think that there's been a lot of absenteeism with fathers in the household. And so mothers have become both mother and father, right? And so if you're becoming both mother and father, both the masculine and the feminine, then you are going to teach your daughters that, and I think rightfully so, because survival matters more than femininity or masculinity. Don't rely on anyone. You better get a good job. You better be able to be self-sufficient, because if anything were to go down, you don't want to be in a position where you are struggling or you are homeless because you relied 100% on someone, which happens to be a man in this case, your husband, your boyfriend, whoever. And then now you are shit out of luck, right? So I think absentee fathers cause mothers to have to step up to be more masculine, to teach their daughters to be more masculine, because survival matters more than femininity. I need to be able to pay my bills, need to be able to provide food. And so that's secondary to me, and what's primary will be survival. So I think that's one of the roots. And then secondly, I'm finding, in my opinion, that mothers are also babying their sons. And so even though these single moms may have to step up and be more masculine in order to provide, right? And are teaching their daughters, don't rely on a man and provide for yourself. They're not empowering their sons to necessarily be as masculine as they need to be to learn how to lead. And maybe it's because they don't have the capacity. There's a lot of theory around there that says that only men can raise boys. And like 100%, of course, women do it all the time. And of course, there are plenty of successful boys that come from a single mom, but really to have the best results should be both parents, especially a dad who's going to be involved in their son's life. So maybe it's a lack of ability, but I don't think that mothers either they don't have the capacity or they're not doing a good enough job, single moms, on raising their sons in a way to teach them, don't be like your absentee dad. This is how you lead. You know, this is how you become independent, and this is how you should treat women. And so now it becomes a cycle where these boys become men who are not being the masculine men that I think that society needs. And I'm not talking about toxic masculinity, I'm talking about healthy masculinity. It exists, right? So that we can have a community of people who can coexist together, where women can play their role, and it doesn't mean a traditional role necessarily, but whatever your role or responsibility is in the household, along with a man, so that we can have the best results. So to answer your question very quickly, because I answered it in 30 seconds yesterday via video, and that's why I got a lot of negative commentary, because I didn't have the opportunity to really express it fully with you. It's a two-way street, but a lot of it I think has to do with an absenteeism of masculinity, which forces women to play both roles.
So the question of femininity is really, it circles back to the question of masculinity. Yeah.
I think it's like yin and yang, right? So when one is missing, the other one is off balance and it becomes problematic.
Do you have an idea? It sounds like you have an idea, you know, on how that can be fixed.
Actually, I do not. I don't know on a large scale, right? Like, I don't know how do we teach our boys, because again, this goes back to the theory of maybe I'm just ill-equipped to teach boys, right? So I don't know how to end the cycle. How do we stop the cycle so that men, quality men, are teaching our boys how to be men, right? And then how do we stop the cycle that there are more men in the household, or at minimum, are active parents, right? So that they are in the position to then impact their boys. I know what the problem is. And generally speaking, the solution is we need more positive male influences, particularly dads. Like, you know, the Big Brother program is decent, right? Like, you could be involved in some boys' lives twice a week. They come to your community center, but it's not the same as having a father who is in the home, who is really there to reinforce the morals and values of that family. So having dads ideally in the home, and if they're not in the home, that they are active dads and not weekend dads that get to have the good time. There's no time you have to go to sleep, no time you have to wake up, no time to, right? Like, not a weekend dad, while the mom is the 24-hour, 5 days a week parent who has to be the asshole. That has to be, did you brush your teeth? Did you bathe? Where's your homework? Like, they have to be the tough guy while dad gets to go and throw a ball around in the park on the weekends. Like, we need active dads who are involved 7 days a week. How to get that and is arguable. I don't have the answer, but I think that's what I think it is. I think it's a lack of masculinity that's forcing women to step up to play both roles.
So it comes back to family and also reinforcing the need for a sense of family. The man is there, the woman is there.
Yes, absolutely. That's what I think.
You touched on toxic masculinity. Do you believe that's a thing?
Yeah, I think it exists. I think that, and even though it's not spoken about, there's probably examples of toxic femininity. I think the reason why the phrase doesn't exist is because when you are part of a group that is not the reigning group, like the group that's in power, then those terms kind of don't work for you. Kind of similar to race, right? Like, by definition, the group who is the minority cannot be racist because they're not in a position of power to systematically hold or hamper anyone else, right? So it's the same idea. Like, I'm sure that toxic femininity exists, right? There are some women who are overly feminine in whatever feminine traits you might define, so much so it becomes problematic. Is it systemic? I don't think so. So I think that toxic masculinity exists. I think that there's masculine and feminine, and then there are some men who have some of those characteristics and traits, and then they exaggerate it so much so that it becomes problematic, so much so that it becomes toxic. So what do I mean? For example, I think something that, and I apologize because I'm not a man, so I apologize to anyone who says, how dare you try to define masculinity, but I'm going to give an example. I would say one of the core elements of masculinity would be to protect and provide. That's a phrase that we say here in the US all the time. I don't know if it's an international one, but protect and provide, right? So if that is something that we use to define masculinity, men are supposed to protect and provide, and a man is providing financially, but he does it so much so that he uses that money to control his wife. That would be toxic masculinity. He's taking a trait that is supposed to be positive. I provide for my family. I ensure that they have everything that they need, right? And that's healthy. And I think that's healthy and beautiful. When you now take that trait and you take it to the extreme, and it's, I'm the one who provides for this family. I make all of the decisions around finances. Oh, you want to go out with your girlfriends? Well, I'm not giving you any money to go out with your girlfriends this weekend, and you will stay in the house and you will care for the children, and you're using it as a tool of manipulation and abuse. That's when it becomes toxic masculinity.
So toxic masculinity is taking certain traits of masculinity and exuding it, making it extreme.
Yeah, to the extreme where it becomes problematic or abusive.
Okay.
That's how I define it. I've never Googled it, so there may be a better definition out there that I don't know, but that's just how I define it.
You mentioned helping men as well. So what do you help the men with?
So I would like to help them, but there's something about me and it's okay. You know, there's an audience for every speaker. I'd like to help them in the same way that I help women. I think that men have similar complaints and they say that they can't find quality women. I don't know why, because I know so many, but because I'm in the circle of quality women, the way I would define quality, right? I find that hard to believe, but they say they can't find it. So I want to help them. And I'll go through the same process with them as I would go through with women. What are you looking for? Do you have what you're looking for? What are some of the problematic traits that are about you that could be a turnoff to this good woman that you say that you want? How can we work on changing those behaviors so that you can attract the right people and repel the wrong ones? And then now we need to drop those walls that you've built, sit back and allow love to come into your life.
So you believe that the men and the women, they experience the same set of problems?
I do. Now, again, I don't know, because of biology, right? I don't know how serious men are taking their search, because at the end of the day, they are really not pressed for time. So when I hear the complaints of men, I'm not sure when they say I can't find, I'd like to know how hard they're looking. You know, I'm just not sure, because when you're not pressed for time, you take your time, you take a stroll, right? Versus women who know and understand that they are pressed for time. And so they're going to be on their search, and they're going to go online, and they're going to go on YouTube, and they're going to hire a coach because they know that time is of the essence. For men, where that's not the case, they say that they can't find a good one. I just don't know how earnestly they're looking.
You give so much to the community in terms of your content value. You're very open to giving as much as you can give. Is there anything you've not mentioned? Is there anything you've not given? You know, some philosophy, belief, or message around what you do that you've not mentioned yet?
That's a really good question. Directly related to what I do, no. Okay. I actually feel like I'm running out of things to talk about and it worries me, because, you know, when you're on social media and you're a content creator, the expectation is that you're cranking out content multiple times a day. So I don't think there's anything that's outstanding, but the beautiful thing is as I follow other people, it gives me ideas. I never spoke about femininity or masculinity until last week. And those reels on Instagram and on TikTok are going and picking up. And to be honest with you, I can't remember what exactly sparked this idea to talk about it, but hopefully I continue to get these sparks and I share. But there isn't anything right now that I can think of related to dating and relationships that I haven't spoken about. I know there is an opinion that I have in regards to child support that I haven't shared yet. But it doesn't directly relate to what I do, which is to help people find a relationship. I'm not in the business of right now resolving issues within couples, right? like I've worked with couples here or there, but where my real area of expertise is working with singles. So I really haven't dealt with couples too much. And I do have an opinion around child support.
What's that?
So
what's the opinion?
I think, at least in the US, and I can't speak around the child support systems around the world, there are some elements that are extremely problematic. This idea of the non-custodial parent doesn't pay child support for X amount of time. And so in the US, they take away your driver's license as a punishment. And then they eventually take away your passport, and then eventually you can go to jail, right? For not paying child support. Now, I understand wanting to punish the person who's not paying. That's reasonable, right? Anytime you don't do what you're supposed to do, you're punished in some form or fashion. However, I live in New York City, so traveling within the US, within New York is really easy. However, outside of New York City, you need a car to get from point A to point B. So if we want the non-custodial parent to pay child support, how are they going to do that if they can't get to work? So taking away the driver's license is an impractical way of punishing, right? So that's one element that's problematic. Another element in the US, and I'm not a lawyer, so I can only say, like, in the states I've heard of, whoever signs the birth certificate is the person who's accountable for that child financially. So if we assume that the mother is the custodial parent and the father is the non-custodial, if that father signs the birth certificate in some states and later finds out biologically that he's not the father, he is still financially bound to that child until the age of 18.
Oh, wow.
If you sign, it's a legally binding document, you have declared that you are the legal father of this child. So biology does not matter. It's in a dad's best interest not to sign initially, honestly. I think that a DNA test should be given at birth for both parents, maybe upon exits, right? Just to make sure that babies weren't switched at birth for the mom, and to make sure that that mom has been forthcoming to that potential dad. That should be a part of the birthing process. I think it would avoid a lot of fights, arguments, conflict. Dads don't have to worry about signing birth certificates because you took the DNA test, you know it's your kid. It would probably put Maury, I don't know if you're familiar with the talk show, Maury Povich, you're not the father. It would take him, it's a very famous show in the US for the last like 25 years. He does DNA tests every day. It'd probably put him out of business, but right, I think that's something that needs to be done. So that's in defense of dads or non-custodial parents, right? Most of the time being dads. In defense of the custodial parent, which is usually the mom, there's this idea that really bothers me, that men don't have a choice in regards to having children. Women have all the choices. They can choose to keep the baby. They can choose, right? Men have no choice. And a woman makes a choice, and now that man is stuck with that choice for the next 18 plus years. I think that men are missing out on the fact that they had 100% choice when they laid down and had that baby. Now, do women have more choices? Obviously. Once they become pregnant and they find out that they're pregnant, in the US, they have up to 6 months to decide whether or not to abort that child, right? And in some states, we're starting to lose those rights. Like in Mississippi, I think there's one abortion clinic left in the state or something. But relatively speaking, abortion is legal up to 6 months in the US. So do women have more choices? Yes, we have 6 months worth of choices, but it doesn't negate the fact that unless a man was raped, and that's not the instance that we're talking about, every man had a choice when he went over to that woman's house, when he dropped his underwear, when he did not put on protection, when he decided to do the act that we are all aware of. I learned about how to make a baby in school formally in the 11th grade. And obviously I knew it for years before then. That was when you had your opportunity. And it frustrates me when some men, and this is not everybody, when they talk as though they have no choice in the matter. Yes, you had a choice. You had a choice 9 months ago. You made the wrong one. Now, yes, do you have less choices? Absolutely. But you had a choice. You made that choice. And now you're upset about the fact that you don't have more choices. You had a choice. Let's acknowledge that, because only from acknowledging that can we then make a change to say, you know what, I do have a choice. And I'm going to be more mindful moving forward about who I lay with. That's my spiel. And then being mad about child support. Don't be mad. You had a choice.
You had a choice. Okay. So is that why some of the fathers would not want to show up at the day at the day of birth, not to sign on the certificate?
Yeah, I think some men feel as though that their choices were taken from them, which is not the case. They had a choice. And so they don't want to be involved. They won't show up at the hospital. They won't sign, even though in some states, my understanding is that the mom can still put a father's name, but the father can contest it because he wasn't the one who actually signed the document. But nonetheless, yeah, that's why they're out. Like, they don't go to the baby showers. They don't go to the hospital. They don't show up because they feel as though their choice has been taken from them and they never wanted that child. But you did, because you understand biology, you know how babies are made, and you were a 50-50 participant in the activity that creates children. That was your time to make a choice, and you made the wrong one.
Wow. Wow. So what I get is this. I get the passion. There's a passion that comes, and it goes beyond, this is my line of work, this is what I chose to do because of COVID and everything. No, there is a passion there within the family, within relationships, within finding a partner, all of that for you. Where's that passion really coming from? For the whole thing, there's a passion there. Where's it coming from?
That's a good question. I'm just a passionate person, I guess. I think if there were anything that we were talking about that I was knowledgeable about enough, I think that I would speak with the same fervor. But I think it's just a part of my personality. My dad said I should have been a politician, like age 6. I didn't follow through, obviously. So I think that I've always just been a person where if there's an opinion that I have that's reasonable and logical, I want to share it with the world, because it annoys me when I see people who are doing things that are illogical. That doesn't make sense. Take accountability and make and create the life that you want. Don't blame everybody else for your mistakes. And then when you are unhappy because you don't have the life that you want, it's everyone else's fault. You can turn it around even today. Even if you're in a position today where you are unhappy, you can make the choices, analyzing yourself first to figure out, what am I doing that's causing this? Yes, of course, there are other factors that are involved, but you play a part in your life. You are the most important player in your life. So what are you going to do differently to combat all of these external forces that are causing you to be where you are, so that you can get to where you are and stop complaining and make life happen for yourself?
So when people come to you, what process, like, so what happens? So the person comes to you now, male, female, or so they come to you and say, this is what I want. Like, what happens? What happens? What do they get?
Sure. So how it works is that someone would find me online through interviews like this. Usually they would follow me on social media. I'm most active on Instagram. And every day I invite people to book a call that's free. I invite them to watch a free training, to download a free ebook. And once they've come to the realization that they believe that I'm in a position to help them, they would book that call. Once we get on the phone, I ask them a series of questions to see where they are now in their romantic life and where they want to be. And if I think that they're a good fit for my coaching program, I invite them into the program, and then we get started together.
Okay. Sounds very good. So they can always reach out to you directly on social media, or?
Yes. I have a website that they can contact me through, or any of my social media platforms.
All right. Thank you very much for coming today and sharing your message with the passion and vigor. It was great to have you.
Yes, thank you. It's a pleasure. Have a good one.
Yes.